Hi everyone, my name is Abhiraj Garakapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhi. Episode 3 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime Season 4 is the point where the season starts showing its real shape. Episode 1 and Episode 2 built the setting around Tempest, the dungeon, and the growing interest from the outside world. But Episode 3 takes two important threads and pushes both forward at the same time. On one side, we get the fun side of slime. Rimuru, Ramaris, Veldura and Milim using avatar bodies inside the dungeon and turning it into a ridiculous but entertaining team challenge. On the other side, we get the darker political side. Maribel Rosso, her power, her past, and the conspiracy forming around Tempest. That contrast is what makes the episode work. It is funny, action-heavy, and lore-heavy all at once. The episode feels like a game at first, but by the end, it becomes clear that the game is connected to a much larger threat. The episode opens by pulling the audience into Maribel Rosso's background. This is important because she is not just a random noble girl or a simple political enemy. Her story begins before this world, in another life, where she already understood power, manipulation, and control. After reincarnating as a princess connected to the kingdom of Soltrasso, she quickly becomes someone who sees people as pieces on a board. This flashback gives her a very different feeling from many previous slime villains. She is not loud like Clayman. She is not only proud like some of the demon lords. She is calm, strategic, and dangerous because she understands how to rule from behind the curtain. The episode uses this history lesson to tell us one thing clearly. Tempest's next enemy is not only powerful, she is patient. Maribel's most frightening weapon is her ability, greed. The scary thing about greed is that it does not need to destroy someone physically. It attacks the will. It lets her bend people, guide them, and turn them into tools without making the battlefield obvious. That makes her dangerous in a very political way. A normal enemy attacks Tempest from the front, and Rimuru can respond directly. Maribel can attack through trade, nobles, rumors, adventurers, and secret influence. The episode shows that she has already used this ability to control people around her, proving that she is not just theorizing about power. She has been practicing it for a long time. This is why her introduction matters so much. Rimuru's nation is growing, but the larger world has people who know how to fight without drawing us. After the darker flashback, the episode switches back to the dungeon, and the tone changes completely. This is where Rimuru, Ramaris, Veldura, and Milim start operating through avatar bodies. The idea itself is already funny, because these are some of the most absurdly powerful beings in the world, but they are now playing inside the dungeon under restricted conditions. Instead of instantly solving everything with overwhelming power, they have to coordinate, test their limits, and actually learn how to fight as a team inside the dungeon system. This gives the episode a playful video game feeling. It makes Tempest's dungeon feel alive, not just like a location. It is a stage, a training ground, a business, a trap, and a political tool all at once. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Abhi grow naturally. The funniest part of the Avatar team setup is how chaotic the group is at first. Rimuru may be smart, but Veldura and Milim are pure chaos whenever they get excited. Ramaris brings energy and confidence, but not always calm organization, so the team does not immediately function like a polished unit. That is what makes the sequence fun. The episode lets these overpowered characters feel clumsy, because their avatars force them to play by a different rule set. It is a clever way to create stakes without pretending the characters are suddenly weak. They are not weak, they are simply restricted, disorganized, and learning. This also gives the anime room for comedy, while still preparing for a serious confrontation with Team Green Fury later in the episode. To improve, Rimuru's avatar team begins training and upgrading. This is where the episode leans into the dungeon as a game-like system. They get better weapons and armor, test themselves on lower floors, fight monsters, and gradually improve their teamwork. This progression is satisfying, because it turns the dungeon challenge into an actual mini-arc inside the episode. Instead of simply saying the team got stronger, the episode shows the process, failure, adjustment, training, equipment, and better coordination. It also fits perfectly with Tempest's identity as a nation. Rimuru does not only win because he is strong, he wins because Tempest has craftsmen, systems, teamwork, logistics, and people who can support each other. Even a joke dungeon battle becomes a showcase of Tempest's strength as a system. The big trigger of the episode comes when Team Green Fury approaches the 49th floor. Until this moment, the Avatar team's scenes are mostly funny and experimental. But once Team Green Fury enters the picture, the episode becomes a real confrontation. These adventurers are not just random challengers. Their presence is tied to outside forces testing Tempest's dungeon and indirectly testing Rimuru defenses. That means the battle has two layers. On the surface, it is an exciting dungeon floor encounter. Underneath, it is a political probe. Someone wants to understand Tempest's limits. Someone wants to see how Rimuru responds. And that makes the fight more meaningful than a simple dungeon match. When Team Green Fury enters the 49th floor, the episode delivers the action payoff. The floor becomes a trap, and the adventurers are forced into a difficult situation almost immediately. Monsters, dungeon mechanics, and Rimuru's Avatar team all come together to overwhelm them. The fight is entertaining because it is not just brute force. Rimuru's side has prepared the environment, learned from training, and coordinated better than before. The team that looked chaotic earlier now starts working like an actual unit. This is the kind of payoff that makes the earlier comedy matter. The episode is not only making jokes with Veldora and Milim, it is showing how even wild personalities can become dangerous when placed inside Rimuru's system. The battle also gives Rimuru a chance to show a different kind of power through his avatar. The most notable moment is when he uses holy magic to finish the remaining opponents, including the captain, Ain. This matters because Rimuru's strength is not only about raw destructive force, it is also about versatility. He can adapt to the enemy, the setting, and the rule system. Inside the dungeon, that flexibility becomes terrifying. Team Green Fury enters thinking they are facing a challenge they can clear, but the deeper truth is that they are walking into a system designed by Rimuru and powered by Tempest's strongest minds. By the time the fight ends, the episode makes it clear that Tempest's dungeon is not only entertainment, it is a weapon, a testing ground, and a message to anyone. After the victory, the episode briefly returns to a lighter mood. Rimuru and the others can celebrate because the Avatar team succeeded, the dungeon system worked, and Team Green Fury was defeated. These lighter scenes are important because they keep Slime's personality intact. The series is never only about war, politics, or power scaling. It is also about food, friends, laughter, and building a nation where monsters and humans can gather together. But this victory celebration also has a hidden edge. The audience now understands that while Tempest is celebrating inside its own world, enemies outside are already planning the next move. That contrast gives the celebration a slightly dangerous feeling. It is happy, but it is not safe. The final major shift of the episode is the reveal that Team Green Fury was part of a larger conspiracy against Tempest. Maribel and Yuki are not just observing Rimuru, they are planning around him. Their strategy is especially dangerous because it recognizes one of Rimuru's biggest strengths, his bonds. If Rimuru is supported by Veldora, Tempest, and his allies, attacking him directly is almost impossible. So the smarter plan is to isolate him, separate Rimuru from Veldora, cut him off from support. Use influence, manipulation, and politics instead of brute force. This is where the episode becomes much more serious. It tells the audience that the next threat will not simply charge into Tempest and lose. It will try to weaken Rimuru's position before the fight even. As a review, Episode 3 is one of the strongest early episodes of Season 4 because it balances three things very well: comedy, action, and setup. The Avatar team scenes are funny and energetic, but they also serve a real story purpose. The dungeon battle is exciting, but it also proves Tempest's systems are becoming more dangerous. Maribel's backstory is serious, but it does not slow the whole episode down, because it is placed between lighter segments. The episode also looks more dynamic than a pure meeting-heavy chapter, which helps the pacing a lot. The only possible weakness is that viewers who are not following the politics closely may miss how important Maribel and Yuki's plan really is. But for fans paying attention, this episode is not filler at all. It is the beginning of a larger The final takeaway is simple. Episode 3 makes the season's threat feel real. Tempest wins the dungeon battle, but the real enemy is not defeated. In fact, the real enemy is only now stepping into the spotlight. Maribel's greed, Yuki's plotting, and the idea of isolating Rimuru all point toward a much larger confrontation. That is why Episode 3 works so well as a recap video topic. It gives viewers fun action to remember, but it also gives them a reason to be worried about what comes next. Rimuru's dungeon looks unbeatable from the inside, but the enemy is not planning to beat the dungeon fairly. They are planning to attack the person at the center of it all. And that is what makes the ending exciting. Tempest looks stronger than ever, but the shadows around Rimuru are getting closer. If you enjoyed this video, Please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Abhi. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.